Hi guys, welcome to episode 3 of Know Your Creator, and I am honoured this week to have a good friend of mine and another awesome creator, an Italian Clownz, who's Xbox extraordinaire with, well, not just Xbox, but podcast in general, with some of the awesome retro content as well that they bring to the table, and awesome panels that they have, and awesome guests as interviewees. But we will get to know this fine gentleman throughout the course of this episode, and exactly where his gaming history lies, his loves, and of course what started him as a creator. But none other than Italian Clownz. How are you doing today?
Hey man, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure being here. And if my eyes don't look directly at the camera, it's because my camera is too high up. So don't feel bad.
No, that's all right, brother. That's all right. No, it's great to have you on again. You've got an abundance of content being created all the time now, as well as quite a numerous amount of shows. But of course, today it's not just about how you create that content or what's got you into that content, but of course what got us here in the first place, and that's the love of video games.
Oh yeah,
oh
yes,
most definitely. And the first question that I posed to yourself then, and it's the same one that I'm going to ask everybody, but of course everyone's stories are different, so I want to hear yours, and that is, what started your video gaming love? What got you into video games in the first place?
Oh wow. Well, growing up, I was 3 years old, and my dad's pizza places, he always had like arcade machines or pinball machines, and my dad was a huge pinball fan, like from like the early days of pinball, and he had Pac-Man. In 1982, he had the Pac-Man arcade cabinet in one of his pizza places, and I guess I must have been running around the pizza place in my diaper with my hands up in the air or something, because my dad pulled up a chair. He held me up there, gave me a quarter, popped it in, and he helped move my hand on the, the arcade machine, the cabinet. And ever since then, I've just been in love with video games, man. That sound from Pac-Man was so classic to me. And every memory after that was me playing video games at his pizza places. I didn't even learn how to make pizza with him. I played video games. So that's what I did. I used all the quarters in the register in the games.
So it all started on pinball machines primarily then. I'm guessing obviously with the love of one of your main shows, Retro Renegades. That's of course another one is these retro arcade cabinets. Is that something that's also stuck by you then from the start?
Well, retro, yeah, like Retro Renegades is an awesome crew, and I'm lucky enough to be a frequent guest on their show. And yeah, it's like everything retro to me, it holds a lot of value, and you see the inspiration in games today. So growing up, yeah, it was like in our basement too, at our house, we had pinball machines, and I guess I could say like I do remember at a young age my dad always playing the pinball machines and the lights going off and the sounds, and then we even had a 1776 table where it was like, it wasn't like electronic, but it was almost like a it rotated with like wooden numbers and letters. It was like a different kind of it wasn't as advanced as what you see today. So yeah, I guess like pinball is probably what I was first exposed to, but it was Pac-Man that really got me into it. And then, I'd always find myself at his places, like on different games, like TMNT, the arcade game, The Simpsons, played Galaga, played Centipede, I played Operation Wolf, Terminator 2, like all those games, Choplifter. Like he had everything rotating in and out like every few months. So I just, man, we even had a Space Invaders cabinet at the house.
That would have been awesome. I was just about to ask if you were playing Space Invaders. That was one of my first kind of forays into kind of retro gaming was Space Invaders. Of course, outside of Pac-Man, because who hasn't played Pac-Man? And of course, then you had the old Nokia game as well in Snake.
Oh yeah, Yeah.
And we've all spent countless hours playing Snake and Space Invaders and Pong and all of them old retro games. With that said, then, what was your, obviously going through the kind of years, what was your first outside of arcade cabinets and retro games? What was your first game console? As it were?
Atari 20. No, this is a tough one because I can't remember if we got the Atari 2600 first or if we got the ColecoVision first. I think my mom had the ColecoVision and then we got a 2600. But I used to play, I believe it was Smurfs on the ColecoVision.
Right. God, that's an old one, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I get so confused which one was first in our house, but it was like for me, I remembered almost like around the same time, probably because that's when my memory started forming, and I remember alternating between the two.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, like I mentioned previously, my first, obviously I'm not in the same generation, my first was the NES and then the Sega Mega Drive. So that was my first foray into console gaming. And those weren't mine either. That was family members that I played. But then I went on to get my first console out of my own hard-earned cash. So what is the first console that, once you kind of played these consoles on from that family members that owned, etc., was the first one that you went out and with your wage or birthday money or something like that and bought your first console? What was that?
Well, to be honest, I was very, very lucky because my dad would just buy all the consoles for me. So the first one that I remember requesting was the Nintendo Entertainment System. And I wanted it so bad because it was advertised all over, like, I believe the Sears magazines at the time that we had in America. And it was just, we saw ads before it came out. And my dad, he knew a lot of people. So he ended up getting the Nintendo Entertainment System probably a little bit early. And we actually had it with Robbie the Robot, Gyromite. We had the Duck Hunt separate cartridge and the Super Mario Brothers separate cartridge. So it was like we had it on exactly launch.
Oh, that's awesome. I still remember, I've got that picture. As soon as you said Duck Hunt there, I've just got that image straight away of the game in my head. The ducks flying across the screen and shooting them out and things like that. That's just classic old school Nintendo. That's very old Nintendo, that mind.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What was the first game then that can, obviously looking through the catalogs and the newspaper articles and things, what that was advertising at the time? What was the game that really made you say, like, Dad, I really want the NES. That's what I want. I want the Super Nintendo or the Nintendo Entertainment System. But what game is it that really made you ask for that? Was it a specific game or?
I thought Robbie the Robot was really cool on TV. And I thought in my mind as a child, I thought the robot would do a lot more than just move stacks of whatever you call them, chips or whatever. But yeah, I thought the robot would actually more like walking around and stuff than it actually was. So that was one of the things that really enticed me into the system. And then the Nintendo Zapper with Duck Hunt. Like I saw those and I was like, oh, this looks so cool. I want to shoot ducks on TV.
Well, most definitely. I love hearing people's backstories on how they got into it. And of course, everyone's is a little bit different. I love how yours comes from very old school kind of gaming, i.e. like say the arcade cabinets and the pinball machines, etc. And no doubt then you're a fan of, as soon as one of the pinball FX games and things comes on modern consoles, you get them straight away.
Oh, I love them. I love them so much that, in all honesty, the guy from Zen Studios, I forget the CEO, back in 2000, I want to say 15, they actually reached out to me to do an interview on Four Guys with Quarters, but the
Yeah.
panel at the time, the producer never could give a specific time frame, so we missed the opportunity for that interview. But yeah, that's how much I love pinball. I play it consistently.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So this is where we go then into your foray into. In fact, before we move on to that, I want to know kind of the kind of line of consoles you then proceeded to kind of go into. What direction did you go into after the Nintendo Entertainment System? What was the kind of, did you go straight to the Sega like a lot of people did, or did you stick and get Super Nintendo, or what's your roadmap of console gaming?
Well, okay, so I had the Nintendo Entertainment System. I did not get the Sega Master System at the time. I wanted it, but
Yeah.
I believe it was hard to get by the time I actually wanted it. So I'd always play it at my friend's house because he had one. And then after that, I got the Game Boy, of course. And I love the magnifying glass for that thing. That was like, I took it everywhere.
The clip-on magnifier, yeah,
with the little light,
with a little torch.
yeah, that's the one. So I had that, and then what was the next thing I got? I got Super Nintendo. I had Sega Genesis. I had Sega CD. I had Sega 32X. I had the Sega Game Gear. After that, I had we did get the Sega Saturn. We got the Dreamcast. I even got a Dreamcast for my sister, and she didn't like it. She never played it. She probably threw it out. After that, I did end up getting a Nintendo 64. I did not like it, but I did play GoldenEye. That was the one reason why I got it, because I thought the paintball mode was kind of fun in that. After 64, I got the Nintendo GameCube. Man, then after that generation, I did end up with a PlayStation 1. Then I went straight to the OG Xbox. From OG Xbox, I did get a PlayStation 2, but I never played it. I got it just to mod it. And that was the first console that I took apart myself. And I messed it up, so it sat in the closet. And I never fixed it. It's messed up. And I still have it here somewhere, which I could probably fix it now, but I never really, bothered. And then I ended up from there. I kind of like from the OG Xbox after Rainbow Six Black Arrow, I kind of stopped playing for a little bit. And then my buddy calls me up one day that I used to play the OG Xbox with. We were in a clan abandon all hope. He says, "Oh man, have you checked out the 360? You got to get the 360." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like, I just, I'm busy working nowadays, and I don't know if, it's something I want to get." And he's like, "All right, no problem." And then like 2 days later, a 360 shows up my door with the Penguins of Madagascar bundle, So then he's like, "Oh, now you got to play Call of Duty." And then I got Call of Duty, and I got sucked into the 360. After that, I got the PS3. Then and then from there, the PS4 and the Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series X. So I had everything growing up except for a Neo Geo, and I did not have. Oh, I forgot TurboGrafx 16. I had TurboGrafx 16. Oh, God, so Neo Geo I did not have, and Sega Master System I did not have. Everything else I ended up coming across or having in my lifetime. I even had the Magnavox Odyssey at one point.
Enlighten me? What is a Magnavox Odyssey?
I'll
put it on screen as well so people can see it.
For me, it was a really bad console because my neighbor gave it to me from his yard sale. Nobody bought it, and I had like a generic football game, and I tried to plug it in and play it, and I was just like, "Oh, this is not for me." I would crap on that system, but I might hurt somebody's feelings. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. It just wasn't for me.
It looks so strange, mind. I'm looking at images of this now, and it's a strange look. The controller looks really weird.
Yeah, it was very awkward. And speaking of weird controllers, I did have the Jaguar as well, the Atari Jaguar.
Yeah.
And I also had the Panasonic 3DO version.
Right. So you went through quite a lot of retro consoles and
Yeah.
awesome stuff. Yeah, that is a strange controller as well, that Jaguar controller. It's
Oh,
like,
it was terrible. I don't understand why they
so
made
many
that
buttons.
thing.
So many buttons.
Really complicated for what its purpose was, yeah.
And I thought the N64 controller was weird.
Yeah. The N64, it felt weird, the first time you held it, but that Jaguar controller, you were like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? Especially when you're playing Aliens vs. Predator on that thing, and it just felt so awkward for me.
It doesn't look the most comfortable of controllers. I have to say that. We've come a long way since then.
Yeah, we have.
Dear God. It's going to be a tough one, this next question, then, that follows on from that. But what is your favourite all-time console, then? Bearing in mind you've owned pretty much everything known to man. What is your favourite of all the consoles you've owned?
Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was because it felt like it had a lot of colorful sprites, and I felt at the time it was amazing what they did with the limited resources they had, like Super Mario World. The sounds and the looks of that game, it was just so memorable. It's something like you can't forget the first time you see that start screen.
Yeah. And is there a specific set of games? Obviously, you mentioned one, but is there a specific kind of set of games that stick out for you as kind of what cemented that console as your all-time favorite? Or
yeah, it definitely had a variety of games that I loved. I loved Earthbound. I loved A Link to the Past on the console. I loved Super Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. And I remember we had the Accessi controllers, and we would use what's his name, Guile, in the corner with the turbo button, and nobody could get out of it. And people used to get so mad when we had, tournaments at the house or something. To be like, oh, no turbo controllers today. And my friend would always bring us turbo controller and flip the button on anyway.
No, that's awesome. There's so many, and I'm exactly the same. It was the Nintendo, like you say, the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, and the Sega Mega Drive. Like, so many fun memories from both of those systems back then. Just absolutely loved it. And you don't kind of have the same nostalgia on modern consoles as you do. Like, I can look back to playing like newer games like the Halo when that came out for the OG Xbox, and have a couple of fond memories there, and Gears when that originally came out. But when you think back to what kind of originally made you happy as a gamer when you were younger, you always think so fondly of like just playing Mario Kart, or the original Mario Kart, or the original Mario games, even on the Game Boy. As you mentioned, the OG Game Boy, trying to play that thing in the dark with your magnifying glass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I guess, did you take it on trips as well, where you had to have that, and you were trying to play it in the car and things like that with your dad?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, every time we took a trip from Pennsylvania down to Florida, I'd have the Game Boy with me, and he actually got me the it was like an ugly carrying case at the time, but it had like foam inserts. And you put the Game Boy in there, you put a couple cartridges. It was a pretty heavy carrying case, so you could knock somebody out with it. The official Nintendo one, but I had that, and I would just play. Pipe Dream was one of my favorites on that, and then Spider-Man. I would play those two consistently all the way down to Florida, and Alleyway. I can't forget Alleyway.
Yeah. Were you never a Pokemon fan then?
I didn't catch on to the Pokemon craze. Like, I think I tried it, and I was like, it's too complicated. At the time, I thought it was too complicated.
No, that's what I spent all my time on, mostly Pokemon. When I got onto kind of Game Boy Advanced, etc., I was still RPGs like Golden Sun. If somebody offered to make Golden Sun again, I would be like, oh God, do it. 100%.
Yeah.
Make a modern Golden Sun on the Switch, and I'll be all over that.
Oh, yeah.
Did you own, I'm guessing then, do you own the Switch as well now, or?
I do, yeah. I got a Switch too.
Yeah, so you had the Game Boy Advance and the Switch as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. The next question might be a little bit harder for you to answer then, but it might not be. Might not be. Your favorite game or franchise of all time?
Oh, that is a tough one. That's really hard because every time I think about this, there's so many games that come back to mind that I always forget. But I want to say the one most that I sought after consistently would have to be Mega Man. When I visited Sweden, because my cousin lived there, we rented a Nintendo from the local video game store or the local rental store at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, do you have Mega Man?" And the guy was like, speaking in Swedish to my cousin, and he was like, "No Mega Man," and I was like, "No Mega Man," and I described to my cousin what Mega Man was. So then he handed me a copy of Rockman. I'm like, "What is this? A knockoff?" I had no idea that he was called Rockman in other countries. I was really upset, and then when I played it, I was like, "Oh, this is Mega Man."
Rockman. What is it about Mega Man then that kind of sticks out to you as being the most sought after, or your favorite game of all time? What is it that kind of really sticks out to you for that?
I really like the fact that, there was a lot of creativity in that game, how you could defeat the bosses and then earn their abilities and then like use those abilities on other bosses and find weaknesses to that. And a lot of times I played those things without the guide or without Game Genie. So it took up a lot of my time to beat Mega Mans, like all of them. I beat them all with Game Genie and then without Game Genie as well. But yeah.
I'm guessing, when was the last? Because they have had quite a number of sequels as well recently. Was it the original Mega Man then that you think fondly of, or was it the sequels? Or
Mega Man 5 was my favorite on Nintendo.
Mega Man 5?
Yeah, I didn't really like the Mega Man X that eventually came to like Super Nintendo. I didn't like those as much. I felt like they try to modernize it too much.
Yeah. So I'm guessing then you don't like the newest of the bunch, then Mega Man 11, which came out for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Or did you play that? Or
I think I haven't. I think I played it, and I think I already forgot about it. Like I forgot what it's about. I didn't. I don't think I paid attention to it because 5. I don't know. There's something about 5 that one sticks out to me the most, and I think it's because it was so colorful with the like when you beat the game and the cutscenes to the ending. It was just. It was like amazing. Like, how could they do this on a cartridge? Like, it was just so cool to me.
they had, to be fair, back then, and especially if you look at what they were doing on PC compared to what they were doing on console, like console was so far ahead of PC in terms of what they were doing. Like, if you ever think of how much they were getting on these little even then, the little cartridges, big cartridges, whatever it was, it didn't store much data compared to on PC when you were trying to play a game. It was like 45 floppy disks, or
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to install things very slowly, and the graphics were poor, and the performance was poor. But console gaming then was really into its own. But like you say, color-wise, and we probably don't remember them the same these days. Have you had a chance to go back and play Mega Man 5 recently, or?
No, I haven't gone back to play any of that stuff. The most recent retro title I probably played was Animaniacs on Super Nintendo.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Now I can hear that theme tune buzzing around my head.
Yeah.
Do you often do kind of retro nights in the house then? Where you play retro games, or?
No, I mean, it's when I play the retro games, it's usually just myself. My daughter doesn't like retro games. She says that they're too difficult and they're ugly. So she's not a fan of.
Obviously, we don't agree on the ugly thing, but I do agree the difficulty level on retro games is far in excess of the difficulty level on modern games.
Yeah.
Like, some of those retro games are hard. Like, and we used to beat those things like it was nothing. And you go back to it these days after playing the games that we're playing now, and it's such a step up in difficulty.
Oh, and those controllers nowadays are so uncomfortable too. If you ever try to hold like a original Nintendo controller, the square feeling, it just feels awkward nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably because of the size of our hands compared to our child hands back then, but
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there.
but no, that's absolutely awesome, absolutely awesome. This part of the show, then, we will dive into your creator background. So first of all, I want to know kind of where you started, what got you into being a creator in the first place. So essentially, your creator journey from the start, not necessarily up until now, but what got you into it in the first place, and what kind of enticed you to continue with that.
Okay. Well, I was always, I mean, to be honest with you, I was always very creative. Before like the podcast and stuff, I used to draw a lot of different things, pastels, color. I'm not so good anymore as I used to be, but I used to do like portraits and stuff. And this is gonna sound awkward, maybe to a lot of people, but my favorite thing to draw in high school, especially from my art teacher, was I would draw a lot of pastel pictures of like mob hits throughout the century. And I did a couple portraits of like John Gotti, and then John Gotti's like friends hanging out with them at like the Raven Knight Social Club, and people in school at the time in art class and graphic class, they really liked my pictures and they told me I should stick with it. And then from there, I kind of just like stopped. I don't know why. And when we got, I guess, into 2013, I was playing Plants vs Zombies on Xbox with a couple friends, and we would watch this streamer consistently at the time, and he would always play Plants vs Zombies. And then one of the guys said, "Hey, why don't we do a podcast?" I was like, "Okay, let's do a podcast." I was like, "Isn't that an Apple thing? Isn't that like, what's on Apple?" And he's like, "Yeah, but people do lots of podcasts." And then from there, he went on to produce the original, I guess, like the first real season of Four Guys with Quarters. And I mean, from there, it's just like history. We kept going for a bit. One of the original guys left the cast, and then the producer left the cast, and then, the other guy that was on the panel left the cast. So then it was left up to me if I wanted to continue or not. And I decided that I was going to continue it, and I got a whole new panel, which I got to say, like, I'm really proud of the panel. I couldn't do it without the panel that I have. And I think, the panel brings a lot of different opinions to the show, because everyone is diverse on what they like, what they play, companies that are memorable to them, like if it's BioWare or if it's Nintendo, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
there's just so much energy on the show with the people that are on the panel, and yeah, I'm so grateful for that. And, shout out to Mav, Midway, Dreadpool, who helps out on the interviews, Mama Rocks, VJ, he's there as well, PKX Live Entertainment, and somebody who I never thought I'd meet, Flamish from Belgium as well. So shout out to him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, a crazy guy.
Yeah, he is. He loves
Cool
his
guy.
candy ball.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. What is it then that, obviously, when you started podcasting, how was that for you? Was it obviously the start? Was it very much was it just a regular podcast, or was it a show on YouTube, or how did it start when you kind of did group together with your friends initially? Was that something that you've just done audio for, or was that audio video, or?
We were one of the first podcasts to use OBS at the time, because OBS was very basic. Like, you had to install like plugins to even do MOV files or QuickTime files or anything like that. And Inferno was a producer, and he actually spent the time learning OBS. He taught Graphic God OBS and a few other people from there. And yeah, so we did do YouTube first, and we always had a format. It was never like Some of the other shows, it just went straight to like Google Hangouts or audio. We actually did have a preform, and everything was already set. We had images and all that stuff, so it was always interesting. I'll tell you that, because being being on a show that pioneered that kind of way for podcasting is really cool. When I look back, I look back throughout the years and I see the differences from Inferno style of the show to how I produce it now, and like it's such a drastic change, but it shows our different level of personalities, I guess you could say. You know, like I have more of a retro personality, so it's like retro themed, and he probably had more of an organized personality, and that's why it was like very organized with boxes. And so it's just really cool to look back on, man. It's something that I will always cherish, I think. Yeah, so I've been doing it since like the end of 2013.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Like I say, there's quite a lot. Obviously, back then there wasn't that many, but now obviously there is an abundance of shows, and we both know that trying to be a little bit different, but also kind of support each other is also kind of what we're aiming for, is to just support as many creators as we possibly can that do love what we love, which is gaming. And is it yourself that controls, I do believe, is the Gamers Guild? Is that right? Which is kind of a game guild or something like that. It's like a podcast guild.
So the Gamers United Guild, which I guess I'm considered a founding member of, but the real founding member of Gamers United Guild, I think, is 3 people. Is Stinger from NLG Podcast, Graphic God from Retro Renegades, and Fastback from Stinger's Next Level Gaming Podcast. And then they brought me on, so I was like the 4th guy in there. And then from there, we started voting in, I guess, like other people to see if they wanted to be in. And it turned out that there was a lot of people that actually respected the idea. And now it's like grown. It's really grown. Like, I'm really shocked at how big it is now.
Yeah, you've got quite a number of different podcasts on there, and they're all very diverse as well. Very diverse. Was it Stubbs Gaming, one of the most recent entrants into the Gamers United Guild?
Yeah. Well, Stubbs, we announced Stubbs as a member while he was live on air, and that was awesome to see, like how excited Stubbs was for it. And Stubbs is a really good guy, and he does a lot of great work, and he's always trying to get like different types of guests on the show, and he's just so creative, man. He's such a good person. And then from there, we had Mav, Fun Speculation, Xbox Ultimate Podcast, which, again, he's another natural podcaster. I remember when I first heard him, and there was only like, I think maybe 5 people listening to him, and I'm like, man, Mav is awesome. And I invited him on the 4 Guys with Quarters panel. And I was like, Mav, you're gonna grow, trust me. And now look at him. He's like, everybody gets him on the show, and he's such an awesome dude, man. And his wife, is so talented with the artwork and co-hosting. She makes the show kind of funny, and handles the chat and keeps everything in check as well. And then Flamish was the most recent one.
Oh, right. I didn't see that. How did that get announced then?
So Flamish is the most unique story, because Flamish was inside the Gamers United Guild because of Retro Renegades. So he was like, he wasn't like his podcast wasn't a member, but he was like a partial member because of Retro Renegades. Yeah. So for the longest time, he always wanted to be a member. And after we got Mavin, I proposed Flamish for membership, and the rest is history. Everybody voted him in, and he's like so excited now. So I imagine he's gonna have lots of tweets about it.
Lots of tweets.
But he's a very good, energetic guy, and I think that he fits the mold of positivity for sure.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And one thing I want to kind of touch on as well, that's it's kind of more unique to yourself than a lot of other podcasts as well. And it's not to take away from other podcasts getting some of these larger guests on, but you get some of the more unique creators and developers and actors and songwriters, musicians from around the gaming industry onto your show for these one-on-one interviews. And there are awesome interviews as well. And one of the ones you mentioned, why I wanted to kind of circle back to this as well, was the creator of ColecoVision that you had on not too long ago. I mean, how is it? We've spoke about this kind of in private messages and things like that, about kind of how hard it is to get some of these people on and how long-winded it is to kind of set up these things. But how awesome has it been for you to kind of be able to get, like I say, the likes of himself, as well as all of these different kind of many faces from around the industry onto your show for one-on-ones?
Well, Tommy Tallarico is very fortunate because Stinger is actually friends with Tommy Tallarico. And Stinger he loves retro just as much as I do. And he met Tommy Tallarico, I think, he's been friends with him for a while. And he told Tommy about our show, and that's how we got Tommy on. So I was very fortunate for that. Everybody else that I've gotten on is people that I've known a while or that I've reached out to. So, for example, we had Josh Stein on from Xbox during when what was it that came out? Quantum Break. He was a community manager. We had him on. And then from there, I met so many different people. To be honest with you, just from emails going back and forth, getting on press lists back and forth. And then there's some teams that have become, some people, I guess, in the industry that become close to me through email. And I'll just be like, you're publishing this game. Can I get this dev on the show? And like, yeah, sure. And then from there, you get the dev on the show, and then you start talking to them. You hit it off really well, and you start at the end of the show. What I always do is, and I do it very politely, and I just say, "Hey, is there anybody else that you would recommend to come on the show and talk about what they're doing? Whether it's an indie dev, a one-man studio, a voice actress, a voice actor, doesn't matter. Anybody in the industry." And you'll be surprised. A lot of times they'll suggest people. And then from there, it's so easy to meet people because they introduce you to them.
Yeah.
And then you get them on the show, and then you become friends with them. So it's like a really cool circle. Once you get one or two on the show, it's just how you interact with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're just like us. At the end of the day, the funny thing is they're just like us. Dutch, they love video games. They do it because they love video games. A lot of them aren't in it to become well-known or super rich. They're in it just to have fun because they wanted to make something because they're creative people. And you could vibe with that, As a podcaster, you're like, oh, I could vibe with this. And it just goes from there.
Oh, 100%. We've both had the same developers on as well, and I think Battletoads is one of my most favorite that we've had, and I think from you as well. It's AJ is such a cool guy, and he's so funny. Funny.
He is.
He's but again, you can see how creative he is as well on what he does, because he's got so many different things running around his head he wants to kind of explore. But that was awesome as well, because obviously I didn't know that you'd had him on previously, because I didn't see the Battletoads thing that you had. I think did you have Lucy on first?
We had AJ on first.
Yeah.
And then AJ introduced us to Lucy. So we had Lucy on. And then he introduced us to several other people. And I think Lucy introduced us to some people as well. So from there, it was just... because that game is really cool, and everybody that worked on that game, it's just fun to talk to.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I say, I'd seen that you were getting Lucy on, and I proposed on saying, we're having AJ and Lucy and Gemma on, and you were like, awesome. I was like, you're going to have fun with that.
Yeah,
we did. It was awesome, but it's obviously I wish there was more developers that were kind of that upfront and kind of spoke to you and conversed with you as easily and as straightforward as AJ and his team did, because they were so pleasant, B, so, I mean, time-wise, they were straight back on it with the emails and contacting quite regularly. But then you get some of the larger developers and things like that. It's so difficult to try and pin them down. As you've probably noticed, you're probably still waiting to hear back from a numerous amounts of people.
Yes. Yeah, it's like some of the bigger companies, they are hard because they have to go through like their HR or their press people, and sometimes their press people can be really picky. And I mean, it just by who you associate with sometimes on Twitter or who's on your friends list, they might be like, oh, we don't know if you should go on that show. We don't know, and it's just crazy to me. Because a lot of times the developer themselves, they want to come on the show. Like if you ever meet a developer, let's say from a studio, and it could be a AAA studio, and you start talking to them, you start vibing with them, and they're like, yeah, I want to come on your show, but I got to get permission, because they're employed by and that's the hard part, getting permission, especially from companies like Microsoft, Sony directly. They're all very hard because they're such a big corporation, and they're always so worried what that person could say and say the wrong thing. And then all of a sudden, the next thing is it's on IGN. So-and-so says this about Xbox. And they're like, no, that's not the truth. I didn't know. You twisted my words. So that's why they're so, so picky. You got to send questions in advance. Yeah, but it's just, no matter what, though, it's always good to, even if you get denied, the fact is, if you tried, then somebody in the organization, you know who to deal with directly next time.
Yeah, most definitely. I think we've only ever had one. I mean, with Aaron Greenberg from Xbox. He's more than willing to come on the show, but again, it's got to get run past the PR and the HR teams and everything at Microsoft, and they've got to kind of sign off on it, and that, God knows how long that'll take. But he's so willing to come on the show. We've only ever had one Microsoft, now Microsoft, used to be Xbox, Gabby Mitchell on the show, and she's awesome. But again, questions in advance, send them over so I know what I can and can't speak about. And on the show, she was, again, straightforward. I can't say anything about this, or I can't say stuff about this. So
it's like they have to go by that script because it's their job security.
Yeah. But I tend to find, and you will as well, I don't know if you've had any success with anybody from Sony yet, but it just doesn't seem to gain traction no matter what you do, like with Sony. Is that something that's quite difficult for you? Have you had any luck with Sony yet, trying to get any of those on the show?
Well, we are on Sony Santa Monica's press list. So one of the guys, I mean, he's a Sony guy.
Yeah.
But he's no longer with Sony. He's in a position somewhere else with another company that's pretty big, Square Enix, and he is supposed to come on. We talk back and forth on Twitter. We follow each other. He's a really cool dude, and I think he has to also get permission.
Yeah.
But I think he really wants to come on the show.
That's awesome. Well, that'll be good to hear from him. Is he an artist, or what's kind of his position within the industry?
Marketing.
Ah, right, sweet, awesome. Well, they've always got a lot of knowledge. Have you had Magnus Sanford on as well yet, or not?
No, I did ask him, and he said whenever he has some free time, he definitely would like to come on. So I do have to hit him up and tell him, whenever he's available, he could just come on, because that's the way I do it, because everybody has a different schedule, and if you have them work around your schedule, it'll be so hard to get people on. So you just got to be like, we're open whenever you're available. Just let me know. Give us a couple days. Give us different time frames, and we'll make it work. So that's what I usually do, and I got to hit Magnus back up with that.
Yeah, he bring a lot of insight into kind of the way that the marketing team works with the development team and kind of launch and build up the launch things. He was an awesome guest as well. But we managed to get him on the same time as we had Joe from Song of Iron on again. So it was two developers and a developer and a marketer in one. So that was good.
He's a real nice guy, Joe
Yeah.
from Song of Iron. I haven't had him on yet, and I was supposed to get him on. And I feel bad because he did give me some time frames, but wasn't able to get back to him because right before we were scheduling him, I caught COVID, and then like that threw me off track. So I lost probably opportunities for interviews, and I'm just finally getting back on track with him.
Awesome. No. Joe's always kind of pretty straightforward and upfront. And now, as you know, and you probably would have seen on his Twitter, he's left his AAA job to continue with just solo indie development as his main job.
Wow.
So, because when we were speaking, we've had him on the show, he's been AAA and independent developer at the same time. So he had the computer behind him, which was his AAA job, and the indie development computer right here. So he was doing back and forwards to two all day long. But he announced, I think it was just around the Christmas period, he's left his AAA job and he's now solely independent. So that's a big step for him. So I think getting him on the shows can be a very interesting one as well to speak about that and see what his thoughts are on that as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But no, he's an awesome guy to get on. So it's I'd definitely get him on when you get the opportunity to anyway. And I'm glad you're much better after having COVID.
Oh yeah. That really messed me up for the longest time.
Oh, definitely. It's one thing. Then we'll move on to next is obviously having discussed kind of your creator journey, where that came from, and the people you've had on, and how the channel's kind of started to where it is now. Is what are you planning, or are you planning anything for the future of the channel, and what you kind of got coming up?
Well, for the future of the channel, I have a couple plans. Recently, one of the first things I worked on was with Graphic God, and together with, I gave him some ideas, and then he put it into motion because he's so talented like that. He's an awesome dude. He created a branded thumbnail for us for Four Guys with Quarters. So it's kind of going more into like a brand direction, I want to say. And also, I'm going to be starting a radio show on Four Guys with Quarters, and I'm just going to name it 4GQ TV Radio. So it's a lot easier than Four Guys with Quarters. And it's going to be, we're going to talk about things, but it's going to be like a different kind of energy, different kind of format. And we're going to try to make it sound like a morning radio show that you listen to like on a car ride going to work or coming home from work. We want to make it kind of fun and exciting. And for that panel, I am going to have like a diversity of, British people, myself, and then Flemish is, Belgium accent. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're going to have fun with it. We're going to try to do live calls. If we can't do live calls, it'll be like voicemails, of course, but we're going to try to make it really interactive with the community and just make it a lot of fun.
That'll be awesome. It's definitely a different twist, and certainly something that I haven't seen before in the gaming community. What made you think of going down, or at least trying to set up a radio show, a gaming radio show, then for the first time?
Well, the inspiration was always there, and Four Guys with Quarters was going to do one a very, very long time ago, and then we found out that Mooch and Crap did like they were starting like their own version, kind of like a radio show, and Graphic God produced theirs. And then we just kind of like scrapped the idea. And then it just, it came back to me and it's like nagging me. It says, here's an opportunity you still haven't done yet, and you can do it differently than anybody else has done it. So that's the plan. It's unique, it's creative, and I'm going to make it different than everyone else's kind of like energetic show out there that does a similar thing. I'm just gonna, I think one of the biggest things and one of the biggest advantages of this is that having people from different countries makes it very uniquely diverse. And it makes it more entertaining because you hear like different accents. And I think that's gonna be cool for people, because you can listen to American podcasts all day, and yeah, there's different dialects of like Southern and Northern slang, but it's like still very American. And I want to get that different kind of ideas from different people in different countries, and having them answer like the voice calls or the phone calls that come in. I think it's gonna be cool.
It sounds definitely unique. Definitely very unique. And alongside the radio show, what else have you got planned for the channel
then? So besides the radio show, I still have some pretty big interviews planned. I'm going to continue with the interviews on the standard show, and we're going to continue, the same format. But I'm going to try to. My goal is to get like 2 or 3 interviews a week from different people. So I'm really pushing myself because I know I'm going to send out probably like 50 emails and maybe only get like 10 back. You know how it is because I'm sure you've tried too. So I really need to push myself to get this done. And we have Lauren Carter coming on. She's formerly of Lionhead. She's in the UK. She's really cool. And she worked at Codemaster. She's worked at EA, and now she does her own company, helping out the games industry and organizing events for developers in the UK. And after that, I have a friend of mine on Twitter who I've known a very long time, since 2014. And you may have heard of him or you may have not, but he's Crypto9095 on YouTube. He had a hit song called Woo that went viral on TikTok. And now he has, I think last time I checked, 1.82 million subscribers on YouTube and 132 million views on his YouTube video. And we had him on Four Guys with Quarters back in like 2014 before he was even on YouTube. Before he even was on YouTube. And I'll never forget, he's just such a cool dude, man. He's very unique. He's very humble. And he feels very blessed for his success. And it just makes him a really good person, man. So that is a really big thing that we have coming up.
Awesome to hear. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today, brother. It's been awesome getting to know your history and getting to know kind of what started you in the creator scene as well. But this is where we say our goodbyes and say our outros. But it's been, like I say, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope all of you who watch this as well have truly enjoyed getting to know Clownz a little bit better. And obviously go over and make sure, if you haven't already, go and subscribe to Italian Clownz YouTube channel and all of his different social media handles as well. An absolutely amazing member of the community, such a pleasant guy, such a very let's say you do it much like Boom, and this is where you and Boom are very much in common. You don't get involved in any of the nonsense or the bad stuff in the scene. You're a very hard-working creator and very much deserve all your success, brother. It's been a pleasure having you on today. But if you can let people know where they can find you, your social handles, and call it out.
Well, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure coming on and talking about it. And I always have fun, and meeting people like yourself in the community. It's just great, man. It's just awesome. Everyone can find me at Italian Clownz on all social media, and then Four Guys with Quarters on YouTube and 4GWQ podcast. So check us out. We hope you have fun listening to us.
Brilliant. Thank you again, and thank you to everybody. Make sure if you do like this show, this is our 3rd episode, so I hope you're enjoying it so far. We have quite a few lined up for you in the coming weeks. But other than that, have a nice night, and we'll see you all next time.
See ya.